Good afternoon, I'm Melissa Miller with Schiller's Digital Printer Group, and today I'd like to show you how to perform long print and cut runs using the Custom Cut feature in Roland VersaWorks. Typically, when we try to send a job to be cut, we can only cut 7 to 10 feet before the cut line begins to drift. This is an issue that most of us are familiar with, and it can happen for several reasons. Whatever the reason is that happens to you, it will inevitably happen if you try to cut too long a run of decals. And the workaround in the past is we've always cut X number of feet before we reload and resend the cut job again. However, if you use the Custom Cut feature in VersaWorks, you can print and cut long runs of decals without ever having to stop every 10 feet or so and then resend your job. What you've been watching here is an example of what the printer does when you send a file as a custom cut file. As you can see, this section of decals has already been printed and cut. Now, without me doing anything, the printer will go back, print another section of decals, and cut that section. It will continue to do this for however many times and however long I told it to when I set up my file in VersaWorks. I will now take you over to VersaWorks and show you how to set up this workflow. So here we are in VersaWorks, and I'm going to show you how to set up your file using the Custom Cut workflow. For time's sake, I have already loaded my file here. The first thing you want to do when you get here is to open your job setting window and get your media width. Make sure you take note of this media width. You can do this by doing what I did and right click and copy, or you can just write it down, whatever works for you. The reason you do this is because, as you can see here, when you try to switch your media size setting from custom roll, which is the standard setting, over to custom cut, which is what we're learning today, your media width will automatically go back to the maximum print size for the printer that you're working with. So if you try to hit get media width again, it will move your setting back to custom roll, which is not what we want custom cut. So to work around this, you'll need to simply type over this width or paste in the correct size. Next, you want to set up your file. Start by putting the number of copies that you will want the printer to print and cut at one time. So for this example, I'm just going to say I want to do 2 rows, which equates to 4 stickers. Next, center your file on the media, and then set your height. You want to get your height as close as you can to the size of your job. So this will help you avoid waste between prints. If you do not set your height, you'll end up with waste on the front and the back end of each print and cut section. Under the scaling section here, I can see that each of my decals is 15 inches. Because I have 2 rows, I know that I will need a minimum of 30 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 32 inches and to try and get me as close as I can to start with, and then slowly work my way down, getting as close as I can to the little blue border of my decals without going too far, which will cause this to happen. When this does happen, just put your height back to a height you know was acceptable and hit refresh in the upper right toolbar. Then work yourself down to a size that you last know worked. So in this case here, I'm going to go ahead and stop at 30.25 because that looks pretty close and I'm not going to be wasting a lot of media between jobs. Obviously, I want more than 4 decals for this job, so the next thing that I want to do is tell VersaWorks how many copies I need. So for this example, the total number of copies that I want is going to be 24, and obviously you can do more than that if you want, but I'm just trying to keep this simple. You can even do more than 4 decals in between, but as I said, I'm just trying to keep this simple. As you can see, what this has done is split up my job. These black lines are like page spaces between each section. So now my job is split up into 6 sections of 4, creating the total number of 24 decals that I need. When I send this job to the printer is going to print this section first and then cut it. And it'll move on to the next section, print and cut it, before it moves on to the next section. This will all happen unattended without you having to do anything. Simply send your job to the printer and it will do the rest. No need to reload after each section to be cut. Now some of you are looking at this and saying, I do not have a roll-in printer and cutter in one. I have a roll-in print only, like an RF640 or an LEJ640 with a standalone roll-in vinyl cutter. If that is the case, you'll want to go to your marks and check the box for the print cut alignment marks. This will print your alignment marks on each of these jobs here because it will treat each section as an individual job. It is imperative that you check this box if you're going to go from a printer to a vinyl cutter, or if you're going to go from a printer to laminating workflow back to the printer. Another thing you'll want to do if you're going to load to a separate vinyl cutter is adjust your page spacing between sections. So under Printer Controls, you want to check the Use Custom Settings and adjust your space. The default space of 40 can create issues when you try to load your media. It won't find the crop marks between sections. So if you set your space down to about 10, this will allow your vinyl cutter to find the marks between each job. Not only that, it'll save you on vinyl because there's not as much distance between the jobs. You'll also want to do this if you're planning on doing the print, laminate, and cut workflow. So even if you're coming back to the same printer again, if you're using these crop marks, you want to adjust the space to about 10 to avoid having issues with it reading it later. Once you've done this, you can continue to set up your file as you normally would. Just choose your profile, any settings that you want for your profile, standard, high speed, etc. Everything else will be the same as you always normally do it. This concludes our video. Thank you for watching. Please keep an eye out for more helpful tips and tricks from Schillers.